That is a reality. But
sure
the actual
is.
reality is that this is American Brews and Tunes.
Here's a theme song, you know it's not a mean song. It's a good song, just as it should song. American Brews and Tunes. Shibbity beeby dow.
Wow, thanks again for joining us for another special episode of American Brews and Tunes.
Boy, oh boy, is it a special one.
My name is Steven Johnston.
And my name is Jesse Titus.
And this is episode number 33.
What?
And with every other number that's a repeating number, such as, well, I think we skipped 11.
Yeah, we skipped
accidentally,
11.
But we did it for 22.
22.
We do it for 33. We'll do it for 44, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Maybe 55 even. We'll see
Maybe.
if we get that far.
Maybe.
But since it's a repeating number episode, we're going to repeat old bands that we've done. So for bands that we've reviewed albums for in the past, we'll review different albums from those same bands. This past 2 weeks, I've been listening to The Port of Morrow by the Shins. And as you all remember, on the second episode, Jesse had me review Shoots Too Narrow by the Shins.
Yes, exactly. And I've been listening to The War on Errorism by the band NoFX. Mm-hmm. And the last album that Steve recommended to me was Punk in Drublic by NoFX as well.
Yeah. So we're revisiting both bands, see how those albums hold up to the other ones, or if they're better or worse, or if they're right on par, or if they're not comparable. We'll just call it like we see it, however it may be.
We'll call it like we see it.
We'll let the dominoes fall, as Rancid would say.
Let the cookie crumble.
We'll let the cookie crumble. We'll eat the cookie.
Yeah, we'll let the cookie crumble and then pick up the pieces, kind of make a little nice ball out of them.
Or
what?
We'll get those pre-made sugar cookie dough things where it's like the holiday edition.
Okay.
And undercook them severely so that they're all doughy, and then scarf them down.
That doesn't have anything to do with the cookie crumble.
I know, but when we started talking about cookies, that's where my mind went. So that they're so undercooked that they leave all these greasy stains in your hand.
Yeah.
And, but they're so good.
They're not stains. They just leave a bunch of grease all over your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're so delicious that way. Sorry. Oh, man.
Any cookie is good that way.
It's true. Except for a gross cookie.
A gross cookie is bad anyway.
Yeah, I know. But I had to make that distinction just for you guys.
Okay.
Okay, well, we will come back to the albums as per usual.
As per usual.
And we're going to go talk about our brewskis this week.
Yeah. I would say that we've got some pretty good ones this week.
It would appear that we do.
Wouldn't you?
We haven't tried them yet, so we couldn't say for sure, but based on the breweries and based on the type of beer inside of each of our brews, I say it's probably a safe bet.
I would say that we are in for an interesting beer portion.
Okay.
So my beer, I'm very interested to try this beer. It is from Mikkeller.
You mean Mikkeller?
I think it's just Mikkeller, but there are two Ks though.
And what country is that from?
I believe it's from Belgium. It says product of Belgium.
There you go.
So, and the interesting thing about this beer, you want to know?
Yeah, I want to know.
Okay. It is.
I really want to know.
Okay. It is an American-style barley wine ale.
Interesting.
So
it's a foreign beer doing an American style.
Exactly. So it'll be very interesting to see their take on the barley wine style.
I'm curious.
Which apparently I guess was made popular in America because it's an American style, or maybe they have their own
American
style of barley wine.
Because I think I've also heard of American strong ales and other things. So maybe
there's just barley wine, but then American breweries brew it a certain way.
What is your beer called?
Big Bad Crossed Out Worse.
So it looks like it's big, bad, worse, but the bad is scratched out.
So I don't really know who this is.
It's
the
picture on Jesse's beer. That's who he's referring to.
If you know the Mikkeller brand, you know that there are these really kind of strange looking animated people that they have on them.
Cartoons,
cartoons.
I'd say cartoons.
Obviously cartoons, yeah. So there's that guy kind of looking weird, angry, and then there's another guy who I assume is someone who maybe people know.
I don't know. It almost looks like a mugshot, or like a wanted poster almost.
That's what I would say. Kind of like the big, the bad, and the ugly. This is big, bad, worse, bad crossed out.
Good, the bad, and the ugly. but it's the big, the bad, and the worst.
Yeah, that's actually the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah, you're right.
So that's what you're having this week.
I'm fairly excited.
I'm having a local brew this week.
Oh, yes,
from
you are.
a Nashville brewery that we both enjoy, called Southern Grist.
Southern Grist.
And we actually didn't really know much about Southern Grist until last Black Friday. We went to one of our favorite tap rooms,
Oh, it was that long
Craft
ago.
Brewed,
Yeah.
to get the ever elusive Bourbon County brand stout from Goose Island. It's only released Black Friday, and so we went at like 6 a.m. to stand in line, and we got there. We were second and third in line.
Yep.
And everyone that came, like the guy before us and like the 10 people after us, when they would come in, they're like, "Oh, you going to the Southern Grist bottle release?" And we're like, "What is that?"
Yeah.
And so many people asked us, we're like, we might as well check it out. It's probably a big deal. So we went and we bought this bottle of what they have. Their vanilla stout called the Vanillionaire, and it was fantastic. It was so good.
It was very, very good.
So I was back there pretty recently, and I got a crowler for myself of a brew called the Loud Whispers, and it's a double dry hopped pale ale.
The Loud Whispers.
Okay. The Loud Whispers. Okay. So I'm kind of curious about
Kind
this.
of an ironic name, huh?
Yeah, it seems like their style of beers usually like big, bold stouts or a lot of New England style IPAs.
Mm-hmm.
So it should be good.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll say I have not had a bad beer from them.
I'm pretty sure I could say the same.
Yeah.
Let's say we crack these brewskis and see what's up with it.
Yeah.
I have a can, like I said, and you've got a bottle. So
Got
here
a
we
bottle. Whoa. Just an interesting fact, real quick. The expiration date is in the European way, where they say the day first, the month, and then the year. So the expiration date is 17/12/19. So that's December 17th, 2019. So I don't know. I found that interesting. I don't know if you found it interesting, Steve.
Is that interesting about the date, or is that how it should be since it's a foreign beer? Well, I have poured my beer successfully into my Das Boot. That's what I'm using this week.
Oh yeah, you got that from Craft Brizzy.
Yeah, from Oktoberfest. I just wanted to use it for funsies. And mine's pretty darn cloudy, like a New England style
Mine is
IPA,
cloudy.
even though it is a pale ale per se. So
Mine is how I thought it would look. It's a nice dark brown,
yeah, which makes sense.
which is normally what barley wines look like.
Would you call this a New England style pale ale, perhaps?
Is it a pale ale?
Yeah, it's a pale ale. It's not an IPA. It's a pale ale. Double
suppose
dry
so.
hopped pale ale.
I suppose it would be technically be a New England style pale ale.
It's got the smell of what you'd expect from hops. But it's really crisp and light. The smell.
Yeah.
It's very faint, but it smells very floral and nice.
Well, I'm about ready to give this a try.
How's your smell though? Is there a smell?
Yeah, it smells like a barley wine. A little bit less.
What's a
intense.
barley wine smell like that? I don't know what that means.
You'll know what I mean. Here, give it a little snifferoo.
Yeah, it does. It smells like booze and
It smells like booze and the dark
fruits.
Dark fruits, really oaty and barley.
bready.
Yeah, bready. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good word for it. Bready. Without further ado, why do we not give these beers, these types of beers, both of them in glasses, the little clinker dink and magic word, and then we'll try them.
Or in so many words, let's clink our glasses and try our beers.
Okay.
Here we go.
Sounds good.
Shibbity-boo-doo! Mine does taste like what I would expect a New England style IPA to taste like, but scaled back for sure. It's crisp,
Ooh.
but it almost has like a creaminess to it. I don't think it's got any lactose sugars in it, but I think it has a odd creaminess to it that I quite like. Very drinkable.
Nice.
I like this a lot for being a double dry hopped pale ale. Delicious.
Well, we'll have to do a little switcheroo here in a second. This beer is pretty darn good. My beer, anyway. It has that typical type of barley wine flavor. The booziness that you normally get with a barley wine is a little bit scaled back at the beginning of your drink. But then the booziness builds into like a really nice, sweet, kind of slightly tart way.
Tart intro. Yeah.
It's not like, whenever I say tart, don't take it as
sour.
Don't take it as sour. Yeah.
More like dark fruit tart.
Yeah, more like it's like a sweet tartness. It's a good tartness. Like it's not it's not sour at all.
That sounds interesting.
But it's very bready. But again, the taste of the booziness, as some people call it,
the booziness,
kind of builds slowly in your mouth.
Okay.
So the flavor profile starts off kind of simple, and then kind of as if you were watching a video, a time-lapse video of a flower blooming.
Interesting. That's how the flavors go.
It does that.
I'm assuming
in your mouth.
as your beer warms up, the way that the flavors transform like that is going to be very different. I think the booze might come a little bit more up front.
Man, this is really interesting.
I did look up my beer, the style,
Okay.
and they say it's a double dry hopped New England style pale ale, just as I suspected.
Just as you suspected.
Am I smart or what?
Very curious.
Let's do a switch ski and see what we say.
All right. Sounds good. Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. All right, here's the switch ski, and here's the tri ski.
Oh my, I know what you're talking about with this beer.
Yeah,
Wow, that's good.
it's very good, isn't it?
There's a strange lingering bitterness that only hits you at the very end, though.
Yeah.
But you were right about the growth of the booziness, and it's so bready, and there's that slight non-sour, fruity tartness to it.
Wow. After having my beer,
Very
your
different.
beer is still tasty. Like, it has a really nice, I would say, kind of almost like a grapefruity citrus. It's kind of bitter, but maybe that's
I wouldn't say it's...
maybe that's this beer playing off of that.
I would say so, because I don't think this is as bitter as that grapefruit Molotov cocktail surprise.
All I can taste is grapefruit in that. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. So, our beers, I think, are pretty good choices this week. If our tastes change over the course of the episode, we will let you know, and of course, we'll give you a final review before we sign off. Now, what say you that we move on to the music?
What say me?
Yeah, what say
I
you?
say, let's do it.
All right, I'll let you go first this week, because I think I've gone first pretty recently.
Okay. I will definitely go first this week. So I am going to be talking about the War on Errorism
Not terrorism,
by the band NoFX.
errorism.
But it's definitely a...
They are a pretty political band, so they're obviously taking the play on the war on terrorism.
Errorism.
But on the front is a clownish cartoon picture of George Bush.
George W. Bush.
Yeah. So they're saying he has made some errors, I suppose.
Yes. Well, actually, they're saying that as well, but they're saying more with that title as well.
Oh, yeah. A lot of stuff. But
That just
I'll
made
let you get into it with the
That made me
album.
think of The Master of Disguise. Whenever you said George
George W. I'm George W. Bush.
Folks around here call me King George.
Folks around here call me King George. What you say? You can call me,
No, yeah, he says, but you can call me King George.
but you can call me King George.
So ridiculous.
Oh,
Anyway.
Devlin Bowman, he laid a stinky one.
Oops! You remember that part when Devlin Bowman is laughing? That's so funny.
I love that movie.
No matter how many
Oh,
times,
Mama's cannoli.
no matter how many times they do that
You
bit in that movie, it's
are
always funny.
My sister. No, I am your grandfather.
Your
Yes,
grandfather.
I was going to say that next. I love
so
that movie.
ridiculous.
That's how I get my Italian accent. That and
Yeah.
Mario.
That and Mario, yeah.
Yeah. But why don't you delve into
Anyway.
this album?
Anyway, I'll delve in. I'll dive right in here with track number 1. The track number 1 is called "The Separation of Church and Skate."
Skate.
Not state.
Skate.
I think this is a pretty great opener. I gave it 4 to 5. I didn't recommend it, but it does kind of set up the whole album. Well, it sets up a couple of the other songs later in the album. And the basic message of this is the question: when did punk rock become so safe? Is basically what it is. Because for those of you who don't know about the 80s punk scene, which we'll get into in a later song, it was very violent, and there were like gangs, and
You would get beat up if you weren't ready.
if you weren't in a part of the right gang, or if you didn't,
One of the
if
first
you didn't
lyric,
look a certain way.
the first lyric is about being at a punk show, and they say "lost in a sea of combat boots," which all the punks used to wear.
Yeah, but the very beginning of the song, there's like a weird spoken part where this like dad's like, "Hey kids, what do you want to do today?" And they're like, "I don't know." And then then the dad's like, do you want to go to the matinee?
No.
And the kids are like, no. And then he's like, do you want to go to the amusement park?
No.
And then he says, do you want to go to the punk rock show?
Yeah, let's go to the punk rock show. Yeah.
So it seems like what they're saying is like,
It's become family friendly.
Yeah, even like kids can come to a punk rock show now. Or like little children and, you know. But anyway, so that song kind of sets up a couple of other songs later in the album, so I'll come back to that song eventually. But track number 2 is called The Irrationality of Rationality. And I gave this song 4 to 5, and it seems like it's kind of like about the weirdness of life and how different people's situations, they like rationalize to their decisions to like ease their conscience in a way.
It's a good one, but it wasn't
good.
my favorite ever.
It's good, but there are better songs though.
Agreed.
So on to one of those better songs, track number 3, Franco Un-American. And what? There's a synthesizer in this song?
Truth.
So crazy.
Yeah, the keyboards kind of threw me off the first time I heard them too.
Yeah, it was it's pretty crazy. Whenever I first listened to it, I was like, huh? That's insane. It's very, very, very catchy.
It's not like a fast speed punk song like most of their stuff.
No, not at all. Which I kind of really like.
Yeah, it's a good change of pace.
Yeah. And this is basically a song about how ignorant Americans can be.
Yeah?
Is essentially what it is.
Yeah, I'd say so.
One of the lyrics is, let the whales worry about the pollution in the ocean. Or,
The poison's in the sea.
yeah, that's...
Outside of California, it's foreign policy.
Yeah. And then there's the great line at the end, or a great couple of lines where they talk about wanting to go up
Want to
north.
move north and be a Canadian, or hang down low with the nice Australians.
I don't want to be another I don't care-a-kin.
What are we gonna do,
Franco Un-American.
It's a really good song.
Yeah, it's a super, super catchy song. And I would say that it's probably one of the best on the album, in my opinion. So
Yeah, I would say Separation of Church and State's one of the best on the album. I just love that guitar part. And I know you didn't talk about the outro, but the outro is such a rager at the end of Separation of Church and Scape.
Yeah, but you know I mostly go for lyrics sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
Not all the time, but most of the times.
Fair enough.
My next recommendation is track number 4.
Oh, go.
It's called Idiots Are Taking Over.
This is the one that starts off with that bass line.
Yeah, with the bass intro. Yeah,
I can't do
and
it.
it's proof that Fat Mike is a good bassist.
He's a very good bass player.
Very, very good bass
And
player.
if you don't think so, listen to their 18-minute long magnum opus, The Decline. There's some really cool bass lines in there, and I've seen him do it live, and he can play the really kind of crazy bass parts and sing at the same time.
Yeah, that always surprises me.
Yeah, he's good. You don't really think about that.
I would recommend. I wouldn't recommend. I would say that this song is basically a lament for the future of society.
Well, yeah, it makes sense.
It's pretty
Obviously,
much what
the
it
idiots
is.
are taking over.
Yeah. Some of the lyrics are idiots keep breeding. Darwin's rolling over in his coffin. And then my favorite line is when he says, I'm starting to feel a lot like Charlton Heston stranded on a primate planet.
Like the end of Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
You maniacs!
So it's kind of like an interesting interesting topic, because like I can definitely see his point in the song. It's kind of a cynical point of view to take.
Yeah.
Or maybe he would say it's a more realistic point of view to take.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Depends.
But either way, it's a good song. So on to a more lighthearted song. Track number 5 is called She's Nubs.
What does that mean?
Nubs is a person who has no arms or legs, who comes to their punk rock shows a lot. And the beginning of how does the beginning of the song go again? Something about it's not easy to wear high heels
Or slip on banana peels. How does she get in and out of clothes?
No, something about tubs.
Tubs.
I hope she thinks this song is bad.
I hope she thinks this song is good, not,
Not
bad.
bad.
Because we think that she's totally rad, she's nubs. And it is based on a real person, a girl who was born without... I don't know if she was born without arms or legs, or if she had some complication that needed amputation. But she's got nubs for arms, and she's got a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
But I think she's got like a pretty strong social media presence, and she goes to a lot of punk rock shows, and she's friends with a lot of people in bands. So they wrote the song in homage to her.
Yeah, it's a very, very cool song.
Yeah, it's a fun song too.
About one of their fans.
One of their biggest fans.
Yeah. So it's a good song. Definitely check it out. I almost gave it an honorable mention, but alas, I did not.
Okay. Alas. Oh! Don't choke.
Almost choked on my
Alas,
beer.
don't choke on your beer, sir.
Anyway, on to track number 6, which is called Mattersville. I gave the song 3.5 out of 5.
Oh, I like this song a lot.
It's so do I, but
It's about punk rockers getting old,
and like where they live, like some
moving
of the
into
lines are
it's like a retirement village for punk rock people.
yeah.
At the end of my cul-de-sac, Davey Havoc's house is painted black.
Yeah.
Do you know who Davey Havoc is? He's the lead singer from AFI.
Oh, okay.
All gothy and whatnot.
Oh my
Don't they
gosh.
talk about like pulling shuffleboard and all kind of
They talk about
beer and cheese,
where they're like
pills.
like they want to play some like really cool rad game, but they're like, we're just playing shuffleboard though.
Yeah, it's a fun song though.
It is a fun song. Not my favorite, but it still is pretty good though. The next song is Decomposer, and they spell it decom-poser.
Like a poser in the scene.
Yeah, so it seems like this song is basically just about a woman with no substance, is essentially what it's about.
Probably.
I think. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 and did not recommend it.
This one was never my favorite. I usually would skip it.
Yeah. The next song, track number 8, is called Mediocre.
I actually quite like this one a lot.
Same here.
It's a big change of pace.
Yep, I gave it 4 to 5 and it's an honorable mention.
Sing a song. That's it.
So all the kids can sing along.
Sing along.
Sing along. Sing along.
But it's got a couple different vibes almost throughout different parts of the song.
Yeah, the beginning one where it's like more piano driven reminds me of a Ben Folds song.
And then that middle part almost sounds like a show tune.
Yeah.
And then it gets to like a heavy dredging song.
So I'll say what the song's about then.
Yeah, go for it. Sorry.
It's basically a song about how a lot of bands are starting to sound the same and how it's becoming like really, really boring to listen to newer music and bands that just sound the same in general. Steve just got to the portion of his beer where if you guys have seen Beer Fest, the Das Boot,
The boot portion will give you a bubble that if you're not careful, beer will get all over you.
Yeah, and so he was just like playing around with it and making a weird noise.
like that. Hold on. See if you can hear this, everyone. That was my beer.
So he was doing that and it was distracting me, so I had to mention it. Anyway,
but all these bands are sounding the same and whatnot.
Yeah, and this
Getting people to sing along just for the
plays or just for whatever reason. And I guess that is kind of in line with like the war on the title of the album, Errorism.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that seemed like they're saying that they don't believe that's what people should be doing in the music scene.
Yeah.
And this song does sound very different from the rest of
It does.
their album,
They've got a lot of different sounding songs on this album, which
is like the next one as
is
well.
like the next one, yeah.
Track number 9 is called Anarchy Camp, and I gave it 4 to 5. Did not recommend it, and it's not an honorable mention either. But there's a saxophone in it.
Yes, there is. It's like a really bouncy ska song. It's literally just a witty, goofy song about an anarchy camp to learn like you go to camp to be an anarchist.
There's not like that. Having
just
a camp
goofy.
for anarchy goes against what anarchy is, right?
It's just a goofy, fun song.
Mm-hmm.
But the
Got an
next
invitation
song
to anarchy camp. The next song,
is their return back to punk rock.
Yes.
For like the first punk rock song in a while. It seems like.
yeah. After like if you're listening to this album straight through, even those two songs, where they're not like punk rock, seems like a long time without hearing NoFX play like a quote-unquote punk rock song.
A fast song, we'll say.
Yeah. And that is track number 10. I gave it 4 to 5, and it's called American Errorist. So this is kind of I would say like the title track, even though it's called The War on Errorism.
But yeah, I would agree with you.
I mean, it's mostly like that. I would say that. Anyway.
I like the first lyric.
What is it? I can't remember.
It's okay, allow yourself a little hate.
Oh, yeah,
Hatred
yeah.
is not too bad when directed at an injustice.
Yeah. And then they say it's okay to you can turn the other cheek, just don't turn away. Yeah.
I like that.
So those two lines kind of sum up the purpose of the song. Like it's about standing up for what you believe in, basically, and not like being a complacent mannequin.
Yeah, agreed.
Or whatever.
I agree.
So I think it's really good. I gave it 4 to 5. I did not recommend it though.
Fair enough.
So that leads us to track number 11, which I'm going to let you explain, because you asked me earlier if I knew what the title meant, and I was like, nope. And I also don't really know what the lyrics mean. So the song is called "We Got Too Jealous Agains."
All right.
I gave it 4 to 5.
So I'll tell you that "Jealous Again" is an album by Black Flag.
Okay.
Do you know who Aaron Burkett is?
The name sounds familiar.
It's Fat Mike's ex-wife.
Oh,
at the time of this album, they were married, and she was also an avid punk rock listener. She co-founded Fat Records with Fat Mike, and they still co-run, even though they're divorced now. So when they got married, they merged their record collections, and they had two Jealous Agains.
Oh,
and so throughout the song, they say, we got two Jealous Agains, we got two whatever. And it's like all these, like the things that they care about the most in the world, they had this shared interest. Now they can share it together and have two of each or whatever.
Okay.
So it's a kind of a cool song when you know that.
Yeah.
But after their divorce, on their album entitled, I think it was called Self-Entitled, they had a song called "I Got One Jealous Again."
Oh no.
And it's about dividing everything. She's like, she got the house, but I got my jealous record collection or something like that.
Huh.
It's kind of a bummer, but it's a nice tie-in, I guess.
Yeah.
If you're following NoFX's career.
Yeah.
So it's just a cool song when you know that. And if you listen to this song, they reference a lot of seminal punk rock records.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of influential stuff.
Very cool. Well, you said more than I could ever say about that song.
That's just because I've listened to it a long time and I know.
Yeah. On to the next track, which is track number 12, is called 13 Stitches. And this is the song that I said would kind of tie into the first song, the first track, the separation of church and skate, where they're talking about when did punk rock become so safe.
Yeah.
And this song is kind of like a punk rock history, almost.
Maybe his personal history?
His personal punk rock
Very
history.
storytelling as far as
Yeah.
that mic goes.
Like how he... That's actually very true. That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
How he got into punk rock, basically.
Yeah.
He talks about the first time I saw the Descendants.
Mm-hmm.
They were the fastest band I'd ever seen. Something like that.
And each verse is a different memorable moment in his life, and discovering punk rock.
Yeah. So that's enough for me to give it 4.5 out of 5 and an honorable mention.
The production's interesting on this song.
Yeah, it's like really...
It's not like
weird
if you
flat.
watch a movie and you hear someone listening to a radio in the movie, you know how it all sounds kind of muffled. That's how the music sounds on this, but his vocals are really clear. It's it's an odd production choice.
It's kind of cool though. I like it.
I love to play this song on acoustic. This is one of my favorite songs to cover.
Oh really?
Yeah, it's dope, yo.
It's dope, yo.
No, it's a really cool song to play.
That's one of those phrases that you've been saying recently.
Yeah, that's all right.
You go through weird phases where you say things
It's dope, yo.
up in the hizzy.
Yeah, don't say that. I'll start saying it again.
Anyway, so that song is good. I would say check it out for sure. On to track number 13, which is called Regaining Unconsciousness. Huh?
Play on words.
Weird.
Classic NoFX.
Yeah. I guess song 3.5 out of 5. It's pretty good, but meh.
Continue to be complacent.
Yeah.
Politically or socially.
Re-becoming a drone
Or zombie.
is what I would say.
They released this song as a single, and if you look at the artwork, it looks like a bunch of zombies walking around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One line that I like from it, I'll kind of paraphrase it a little bit. They say, looks like witches are in season You better fly your flag and be aware. Diversity is now our biggest fear.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I would say that line kind of says it all. Like,
So that's enough for me.
get back in line and do what is expected, like the cultural norm, bro.
Be a mindless zombie.
Be a mindless zombie.
Yahoo! Zombies don't say that.
No,
they
they
say,
don't. They say,
Yahoo! Actually, a zombie Yahoo will be like this. Oh, man.
oh goodness, that's too funny.
Do zombies poop?
No.
Well, they eat, like, if they're constantly, like, eating on flesh, like, people, where does it go? What happens?
Well, the question that you should ask before you ask that question
Is
are they hungry? Are they hungry, or are they just like... It all depends on what zombies you're talking about, because there's like the zombies from Last Man on Earth, or there's the zombies from like the Resident Evil series.
We'll say like the same thing that you find in Resident Evil or Walking Dead. Let's just say close to
Okay, so like a virus hit them.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's the only really logic or like plausible way that zombies could actually exist.
Unless you're talking about
Let's
like
be
the
honest.
rabies thing from 28 Days Later, but we won't go there.
Yeah, well, let's be honest though. Like the Resident Evil, the first one in Raccoon City, is the most believable in my opinion.
Let's say that. Your stereotypical zombie, let's go with that.
Okay.
The one that is most common, we'll say that.
So
They're hungry because they're undead, undead, I guess.
Yeah.
And their brain is no longer capable of rationale, so they go back to the basic function, which is walk around and eat to keep walking around, right?
But for some reason they're attracted to living things.
Yeah, I don't really understand
So why is that? Who knows?
I don't know. So if you got
Maybe it's just that they're aggressive.
if they eat, it's got to go somewhere.
Yeah, I would think that they must poop, right?
But if they've got enough motor skills and functionality to move their
To, like,
muscles,
Grab
then
and
you'd think their
chew.
digestion system would still work.
True, but I mean, then there's the zombies that have like their stomachs cut out, and then they're just like eating and it's plopping through their stomach.
Well, yeah, but the zombies that don't have their stomachs cut out, it would still
That
continue.
would prove that it would continue.
Yeah.
That everything would still be functioning.
So we've just concluded on American Brews and Tunes that zombies poop.
You heard it here. You heard it first, everybody. Zombies poop.
I wonder if people debate that a lot.
Probably.
I suppose
and
it
I'm
does
sure,
depend on what kind of zombie you're talking about, I suppose.
I'm sure, yeah, it definitely does. I'm sure there are people out there who would say that they do not poop, and that, I don't know.
We can argue with people, but
Who
that's all
knows?
right. If you want to argue with us, hit us up on social media at American Brews and Tunes. But going on this funny, debatable tangent thing, I heard a funny one on Cheers.
On Cheers?
Believe it or not.
You're watching
And they were
Cheers right now, right?
these two guys were like having their philosophical debate. If a tree falls in a forest, does anyone hear it? And
Yeah.
you remember Coach from the first like 2 seasons?
Or, it doesn't make a sound, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm sorry. But you remember Coach, the bartender from the first couple seasons?
I've never seen it.
Oh, well, he's this old guy who's kind of a little senile, but they play at his senility. Senility? They play up him being senile
I'll just go
for
with
the
that.
TV show.
Yeah.
And I think he actually passed away in real life, so he wasn't in later seasons.
Okay.
So they ask him, and he's like, well, if no one was there to hear it, then how did they know if the tree fell? So
That's hilarious.
Opens up a whole other debate, which is true. The people are like, oh my goodness,
That's true.
He's so smart, but he was like just like serious, like he's like, I have no idea. Like, how do you know it fell? Because I have no idea.
Also, like he thought they were having like a serious discussion about this.
He didn't think they were being philosophical. He thought
That's
they were being
hilarious.
legit. He's a funny character.
That's pretty funny.
But back to NoFX. That wasn't even a digress. That was a digress. That was a tangent.
That was definitely a tangent.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to track number 14, and it is my last recommendation, and it's called "Whoops, I OD'd."
And maybe one of the most different songs on the album.
It definitely is, and probably one of the most unique NoFX songs that I've ever heard.
Yeah.
I would say, both in the music and also in the lyrical content.
Mm-hmm.
This is a song that has only Fat Mike playing bass and only his voice.
And he's playing bass chords too.
Bass chords, yep. And it sounds so golden and catchy too. The bass
It really
chords.
is.
There's
There's almost a chord melody going on where he's playing chords, but one of the lines is moving, so it sounds like he's playing melody at the same time.
Yeah, it's
really cool
It's
sounding.
super cool. and it seems like this song is Fat Mike writing his own eulogy.
Or from the point of anyone who OD'd.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
'Cause he's written other songs about people who've OD'd on the album that came out after this, which was their album called Wolves in Wolves' Clothing.
That's the yellow one, right?
Yeah, they've got a song called Doornails, and it's about a lot of people in the punk rock community who have either committed suicide or OD'd. The drummer from the whole first verse is about the original drummer from Lagwagon.
He OD'd, right?
He's like, these 2 shots are for Derek, and he talks about the song Rifle. Do you remember the drums?
Yeah.
So he's talking about that. But he's obviously he's had some personal experience of people ODing and passing on. So I think that's what it's about. Sounds pretty.
I would say that you're right. It's more about other people ODing and not himself.
But he writes it from the perspective of being the one who ODs.
Yeah. But then there's one line that I really like, where he says, "I never feared consequences." Then something like, "I've always hated regret more than apologies." So it seems like he's saying, kind of giving his view on life in that one line, like his view on like, what's the one phrase? Something like "do now, ask for forgiveness later," something like that.
It's better to ask for
forgiveness than ask for permission.
Something like that.
Something like that.
But he said,
it seems like that's the way he lives his life.
That quote seems like live the full experiences, instead of having a regret and face the consequences later.
Yeah,
that's Fat Mike.
Like, don't even worry about the consequences right now. Who cares? Just go for it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of it's a very interesting song, and the reason that the same thing just happened with this boot. The beer's got all over your face.
Yeah, I was taking a sip of my beer, and the boot bubble from my Das Boot beer glass.
The BB.
The bubble from the toe came up, and beer splashed me right in the face.
That was funny.
Oh, Das Boot, you got me again. But anyways,
just like the movie.
Just like the movie. But yeah, Fat Mike is living for the now more than the later.
Yeah.
All in all, what would you say about this album?
I would say that I actually... Well, I'd have to go back and listen to Punk and Drublick again, but I think I like it better than Punk and Drublick.
It's very different. When I recommended Punk and Drublick, I recommended it to you because it was probably their most popular and their biggest breakthrough album. Okay. There are albums I like from NoFX better than both of these albums, actually, but they're just the ones that I thought might be more important.
Okay.
But anyways, shall we move on to the Shins?
Yes, let's.
All right, this is the Shins' 2012 album entitled Port of Morrow.
Port of Morrow.
Now, it's their 4th album that they've released, but there was a 5-year gap between this and their last album, which was Wincing the Night Away.
Away, yep.
In that time between albums, there were some pretty big things that happened. James Mercer formed and released the first album with Broken Bells.
Yep.
That one band.
Yep.
I don't dislike them. They're fine. And essentially, he fired the rest of the band from the Shins.
Really?
Before going in to make this next record. Huh. Yeah. It was a complete personnel turnover.
Wow.
He's the only person that was on, like, a member of Shins from Wincing the Night Away to Port of Morrow.
Interesting.
I did read that he had some of the original lineup members come in and play a couple things here and there, so maybe there's no bad blood. But
yeah, I was going to say...
all new members.
Was there, did they say a reason why?
I think he
Did he ever say?
I'm not entirely sure.
Maybe he just wanted to take it in a different direction
I think different direction, maybe. Because there was the whole line of, like, best friends versus business partners versus musicians, and I think he maybe was having some trouble with that. But
interesting.
But that's just me guessing from a couple different small snippets of interviews that I read.
Okay.
Anyways, I'll just delve right into the first song, which is called The Rifle Spiral. And just to throw it out there, I didn't give ratings.
Whoa!
It's either recommended or not.
Okay. Interesting.
I gave this a recommendation.
Ooh.
I think it's quite an explosive way to start the album.
Oh my gosh.
The drums come in hard like a bang.
Oh my gosh.
The intro, like the intro's like the music, at least, not the drums, but like the actual music, the chords. It builds up. You know, like it builds up.
Yeah.
Like something big is about to go off. like something's gonna boom or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And do you know what this song's about?
No.
Really? Okay. The song's about coercing someone to be a suicide bomber.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Now do you get all my good references?
Yes, I understand now.
It's really kind of dark, and you don't... Had I not read this straight from James Mercer, I probably wouldn't have picked up on it.
Yeah, I didn't read straight from him, so...
So he is very much on record as saying that's what it's about. It's about trying to, get somebody to be a suicide bomber.
Wow.
And when you look at the lyrics with that mindset, you can definitely pick out the lyrics that have that in, that are trying to lead towards that.
Yeah,
and
I can see that.
It's really kind of dark and interesting.
Yeah. Isn't the first line "Dead lungs command something"?
Dead lungs command something, and I think they're talking about like a religion, like saying people from the past, dead lungs, like the people who have said that have commanded this.
The breath of the past.
There are definitely, throughout the song, religious implications of people who think they're doing it for religion.
Interesting.
He also has implications about suicide bombers, about how it's senseless, because James Mercer isn't a religious person and thinks that.
Yeah.
So he's obviously saying it doesn't count for anything.
Doesn't make any sense.
And he also talks about, there's a couple times he talks about gray eyes, like looking down in a subway, and I think he's referencing Americans like not really caring about it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And how it's just commonplace now. But aside from what this song's about, musically, it's awesome.
Yes, it is.
I think it's a great way to start the song. Like the first time I heard this, I was like, "This is great. This album's gonna be just as good as Shoots Too Narrow." Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah. Hey.
But I recommended it. It's super good song. Check it out. Moving on to song number 2, which is called Simple Song. And it's my second recommendation.
Nice.
This was the first single that they pushed off of this album.
What a great song.
And I can completely understand why. It's so gall-darn catchy.
I know that things can really get rough when you go it alone.
And right off the bat, it like comes in with, this is just a simple song. And it's super catchy.
Yeah.
And I've heard a couple people refer to this as, like, compared to their earlier productions on the past 3 albums, this is more of like a stadium feel. I don't want to say stadium rock, but like big production. Like something you could hear filling a stadium. And while I might not say that as my descriptor, I can see that.
I can definitely see that. I wouldn't say that either. I would say that this song, the way that this song sounds, is like the quintessential Shins sound.
I'd agree. Very poppy.
For me, that's what it is. Just
solely based on the James Mercer melodies.
Yeah,
his melodies are very easy to pick out.
Yeah.
Also, his voice is easy to pick out.
Sure.
And also, James Mercer is on record and saying, and this is a quote, this song is about his wife, their relationship, and the whole new life ahead of us. When I say us, I mean him and his wife.
Yes.
And this was written, he said it was written right after they got married and right before his daughter was born. So obviously it's about their relationship and that whole journey of being in a family and starting everything together.
That makes sense with some of the lyrics that are in there.
And I also think that he's talking a little bit about how music is kind of taking a secondary place in his life. Like, this is just a simple song. Like he's saying, like, music's great, but this is just a simple song. My focus is going to be this from now on. I think that's what he's saying. That's my take. But he's got some really cool things in this music. I really like the chorus when he's talking about how, like, you won't have to face the rough stuff alone.
Yeah. I know that things can really get rough when you go it alone.
But he's going to be there every step of the way.
Don't go on thinking you gotta be tough and face it alone.
Fun little piece of trivia. For those of you who watch the classic TV show How I Met Your Mother, I don't know if you got this far.
Probably not.
When they reveal the mother for the first time, this song is playing.
Really?
Yeah. It's kind of interesting, huh?
That's pretty funny.
So that I don't know how big the song was before that, but that was a very big part in the TV show.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people watched because they knew it was leading up to this.
Interesting.
So obviously the Shins were already popular, but this gives them a little bit more exposure and whatnot.
Yeah.
Moving on to song number 3, which is my final recommendation. 3 up and 3 down.
3 songs.
The album's a little front-loaded, I'm going to say. The album sequence very well, but it's a little front-loaded.
I don't agree.
That's fine. There's I got one honorable mention, and I'll get to that when I get to it.
Okay.
Track number 3 is called "It's Only Life," and this was the second single off the album. So they pushed this because they liked it for some reason or another.
Well, and apparently you liked it as well.
Well, I did. Yes, I'd say this is the first slower song of the album. It's not really that slow.
Yeah.
But it's definitely slower than the other ones, and I want to say it's a love story to his wife about letting her guard down and knowing that she can be safe when she's vulnerable with him. Mm-hmm. I wrote down this one lyric that I really liked. I'm going to read this lyric, and then I'm going to read part of the chorus. So here it goes. The one lyric is, "Used to be such a lion before you got to all this crying on my lap." So this girl was always tough until she was able to go and share her hardships and personal defeats with him. And here's the lyrics from the chorus I really like. "I've been down this very road you're walking now. It doesn't have to be so dark and lonesome. Takes a while, but we can figure this thing out and turn it back around."
Yeah.
So it's not the most deep lyrics, but it's nice lyrics. I really like it. It's like sharing a tough journey with somebody.
Yeah.
I do want to say, however, that the hook, or like the melody in the chorus of this song, reminds me of my favorite song on their most recent release, Heartworms.
Okay.
Entitled, what's that song called? "So Now What?"
That's from Heartworms.
Yes, which is their most recent release.
What
Do you
is
remember
it?
that one? "I had this crazy idea."
Yeah.
And
what is it in this song?
On this song, it is, "I've been down the only road you walk." So it's not the same melody,
Doesn't have to
but
be
that
so dark.
interval in the jump is very similar, and so
lonesome.
it reminds me of that.
Okay.
But the good thing is, "So Now What" is my favorite song on Heartworms.
Really?
Yes, I love that melody is so infectious.
Crazy idea.
And so I think the chorus in this song is super infectious. And
Okay,
it just,
interesting.
even though it's similar, I love them both.
That's good reasoning
Yeah.
for as to why you like this.
And those are my 3 recommendations. We'll move through the rest of the album decent.
I'm interested to see what your HM is, your honorable mention.
I'll cover up my paper so you can't read ahead.
Yeah, please do.
All right, so the next song is called "Bait and Switch."
Bait and switch.
I went back and forth between recommending this or, picking this as an honorable mention and what I actually picked, which
Okay.
I'll tell you later. The verses are like really bouncy and really catchy, and they remind me of Heartworms, the Shin's newest release, like that really fun Shin sound, really poppy. And I liked it a lot, but the choruses were kind of meh.
Okay.
Like the verses, soup's awesome.
Yeah, this was never.
The chorus, soup's meh.
This was never one of my favorites on the album. But it's still pretty good though.
Thematically, it's about like falling for a girl who's bad news.
Yeah.
She's like,
Bait and switch.
She does the bait and switch, yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on to song number 5. It's called "September."
Do you remember?
No, not that.
do in September.
All right. Quit playing with those elements, my man. This is another slow song. After the last one was a fast one. This is a slow one. I read the songs about his wife, like a love poem to his wife.
Yeah.
I couldn't really pick up all. Like I could tell it was a love story, but I couldn't really tell it was for his wife in particular. And his lyrics are hard to interpret sometimes.
Sure.
So I just read that it was to his wife, but the song really doesn't do much for me.
Okay.
On to song number 6, which is called "No Way Down." This song had a really weird intro that did not sound like a Shin song.
I love this song.
I think it's good, but that, like, when I listened to the intro, I was like, this reminds me of like a top 40 song, not a Shin song.
Huh.
Whenever you get a chance, listen to the intro by itself and don't listen to anything else.
Okay. I was gonna say, but then you get into the rest of the song. And you're
Yeah,
like,
I'm not
okay,
talking
yep,
about the rest
Shins.
of the song, though. When they get into the lyrics, it's definitely Shins. This is a political song.
Yes, it is.
It's very political, and it's about wealth,
Is
financial
there no
corruption.
Way down.
I think he talks about like the sun rays only being collected by a couple of us,
ground.
right?
Well, yeah. You see, he talks a lot about what's the one line that I really like from that song? I was hoping that this would be your honorable mention, but
It's not.
Too bad.
I thought it was really cool to kind of cloak the financial positioning of the United States economy in this song, and it's definitely like the lyrics are like the. What would you say? Like the word symbolism. The symbolism behind the lyrics are almost hard to read until you pay attention and know what he's talking about. Then you can definitely pick up on it a lot.
I'm looking up the lyrics right now because there's one lyric that I really want to find that I really like. Let me see here. Okay, here's one of them that I really like. Oh, all of our working days are done, but a tiny few are having all of the fun.
Yeah.
Then he says, "Get used to the dust in your lungs."
Yes, that's one of the last lyrics.
Yeah, and
He's
then
talking about the young and the sick. Get
Yeah.
used to the dust in your
Well, no,
lungs.
one of the apologies to the sick and the young. Get used to the dust in your lungs. Yeah. There's one other. Okay, yeah. One of the lines is, "Make me a drink strong enough to wash away the dishwater world they said was lemonade." I like that.
I do
that
too.
line.
It was a good song, but not an honorable mention for me.
Okay, that's the one I was hoping that was an honorable mention, but
Song number.
Go on.
Moving on to song number 7, which is called "For a Fool." This song was kind of like slower.
taking
like,
for
musically,
a fool.
It's got a really spacey, like you feel like you're floating, like a spacey
Yep.
feel to it.
I would agree.
The guitar tones in the intro, I really like. They are drenched in
Yep.
reverb, I guess I should say.
Verb, they're drenched in verb.
But I don't really care much for the song.
Okay.
It doesn't really.
I get that. That's probably one of my least favorites on the album.
Fair enough. On to the next song, which is called "Fall of '82." This, like, the feel of the song is odd and hard to describe. I don't know how to explain like what the style is. Almost, it's
It's the Shins.
very different, but it's unique. I'll say that. It's a really cool song lyrically and what the subject matter is about. Into the past about James Mercer. His dad was in the Air Force, so they moved around a lot. And when he was 11 years,
from Heartworms as well.
yes, one of the really good songs from Heartworms.
Yeah, my favorite song from Heartworms.
But this song's about his family moving from Germany to Albuquerque when he was 11 years old, and he was really depressed.
The song on Heartworms is about him moving from somewhere to Germany.
From, I think, like England to Germany or something like that.
Yeah.
But this song, he's moving from Germany to Albuquerque, and he's really depressed. And so his older sister, who was, he said, like 21, maybe 22 at the time, moved back home because she had a failed relationship. And she helped him out a lot. She knew he was going through a hard time, and she became a friend to him.
In the fall of '82.
This song essentially is a big platform for him to say thank you to his sister. That's all it is, and it's really kind of cool to like that's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Like if I was a huge like if our band was huge, I would go ahead and say, let's put our personal messages and thank yous and homages on our songs.
Yeah,
It's just cool that he did that.
yeah.
But I don't recommend it, and it's not an honorable mention. So on to song number 9, which is called 40 Mark Strasse. Strasse.
That's probably the German reference.
It is,
Strasse
which is a
street in
reference to one of the roads in Germany where there was a lot of prostitutes, and they said that 40 German marks could get you anything you wanted. That's the connotation.
Okay.
What I read, at least. It's another slow song. It's kind of boring. But lyrically, it's about him. It's very interesting lyrically. It's about him trying to convince a young prostitute to turn away from her life of being a sex worker.
Yeah.
And probably failing an attempt.
Yeah.
Like I think the end of the lyrics is "Don't let those Americans put a dent in you."
Yeah. Something about don't let the American boys put a dent in you.
So it's probably him being in Germany on a Air Force base, and the German guys maybe going and getting into some stuff they shouldn't get into, and ruining people's lives.
Terrible behavior.
So on to the last song of the album Port of Morrow, which is called...
This must be your honorable mention.
It's my honorable mention. It's a song called Port of Morrow.
Interesting.
And like Simon and Garfunkel with Wednesday Morning 3 a.m., the title track comes at the very end.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
I remember on that episode we were saying how
weird
I don't
it
think
is.
I know any other albums. Well, here you go.
Here you go.
This one. The song's really... It's long, not the longest song we've reviewed. It's about 5.5 minutes long, but it's long for a song.
Yeah.
Long for the Shins.
That's actually that's a good point. That is a little bit longer than a normal Shin song.
And the actual parts that have lyrics aren't very long. There's a lot of instrumentation, especially at the end. The outro's pretty long and kind of drawn out. It's got a weird vibe to this song, and it almost sounds underwater. That's what I get from this song. But the lyrics are really interesting and really dark. I think it's about the darkness of humanity and the inevitability of death.
Yeah.
And I think he's talking about, I don't want to tell this to my daughters, but I'm going to have to tell this to my daughters.
Yeah.
Explain things. Like at the very, one of the first verses, he talks about how he's going to hide them from that. He's going to hide his daughters from the Port of Morrow, which, the port of tomorrow, the inevitability of death and darkness.
The port through which the
future
guy
comes.
called the gatekeeper brings you along the river Styx
I can't remember the
to the underworld.
But anyway, we're talking about Hades, whatever he is.
Into Hades, yeah.
But yeah, it's dark. There's some really cool lyrics and imagery in this song. One lyric I really, really like. He says, "I saw a photograph, Cologne in 27, and Cologne's a town in Germany.
Yep. Cologne.
And then a postcard after the bombs in 45. So he's seeing Cologne and its greatness in 1927.
Yeah.
And post World War II when it was bombed to crap and it was like depleted. And then he goes on to say, "Must have been a world of evil clowns that let it happen, but now I recognize, dear listeners, that you were there and so was I." So he's saying, we look back on these terrible things and we think,
how could they do
they do this? They were terrible. We're way better. But in actuality, from the caveman times to the future, we are all capable of horrendous evil or dark acts. It's just a part of humanity, and it's not going anywhere.
Reminds me of the John Foreman song, "Equally Skilled."
Yeah, both hands are equally skilled at love and hate.
Skilled of love and destruction,
life and death,
creation
and destruction.
Yeah.
So it's a really dark song, but it's really cool and it's very well written.
Interesting.
I don't really care. It was weird because the verse was falsetto range, and then the chorus he did regular voice. But enough about that.
Overall,
it's a good album. I do like Shoots Too Narrow and Heartworms better.
Yeah, I think I like Heartworms the best. As I've been,
this boot is really
seriously just keep getting hit by the boot. I after having listened to Heartworms for a while, I think I like that one the best.
I think that or Shoots Too Narrow.
It's super good.
I'd like to check out their first album and third album.
Yeah.
Which are, what's the first album called?
Oh, Inverted World.
I'd like to listen to that and Wincing the Night Away, which is their third album.
Yeah.
Just to kind of get a feel for it.
Wincing the Night Away you probably wouldn't like. It's a lot slower.
That's okay. I can get used to slow things as long as it's got good lyrics and good melodies. But we'll see.
Yeah.
James Mercer has a lot of good melodies.
Yeah.
I like this album a lot. It's good. I'd go back and listen to it again.
Well, good.
When researching this album, however, I did kind of look into James Mercer's past and the formation of the Shins. And he was in Albuquerque doing a bunch of different bands, and the Shins was like a side project. It was like his like backup.
I think the band he was really trying to get going was like Lipstick something.
It was not Lipstick. It was something else. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head.
But yeah, it was a side project.
In that ended up blowing up. He ended up opening up for what's the band that has Float On?
Modest Mouse.
He ended up opening for Modest Mouse before Modest Mouse was huge.
Yeah.
And they played Shin's song. Like it was a bunch of Shin songs, and then they ended up blowing up and getting signed.
Huh. Interesting.
And so
I knew that that the Shins was a side project,
and it ended up being huge.
But yeah, look where it is now.
But James Mercer is a phenomenal. I'll say he's a phenomenal poet. Like the way he writes his words. He's a phenomenal songwriter and arranger.
Yeah.
Because the way he puts together the songs, writes them is great. He's great at writing a melody because they're infectious and they're just great melodies.
Yeah.
And he's got a really good voice.
Yeah.
So I really like James Mercer a lot.
Yeah. Same here.
I can't believe we missed him twice in Nashville.
I know.
We're like, let's get tickets. Let's get tickets.
And then
we're like, all right, let's get tickets. Oh, the concert already happened.
Two
times.
Literally 2 times.
I
come back to Nashville, James Mercer.
Yeah, come back if you listen to this.
Kind of funny.
Anyways, those were both great albums in my opinion.
I say so as well.
Looking towards the future, I believe the next episode we're going to release will be a one-off of what should we do next?
I think we were talking about doing Painkillers from Brian Fallon.
We're going to do Painkillers by Brian Fallon, so expect that next week.
Yep.
And then the following 2 weeks are going to be
We've
back-to-back full episodes.
We've got a new idea, a new special idea for kind of a 2-parter episode. So it's going to be one episode that should take up 2 hours, so we're going to make it over 2 episodes.
So it's going to be 2 bands. I'm going to recommend 1 band for Jesse, but 2 albums from that band.
The same band.
An early album and a later album to kind of contrast their beginnings and ends, and he's going to do the same for me.
Yeah, so the whole idea about this, like Steve just said, is that it's to see the progression that a band takes. To maybe have the album where they first got really popular, and then after a few years, after how many ever years, see the album that they like most recently, or one of the ones that's very different from that beginning album. So kind of a long-term study for us in terms of bands that we're not familiar with, and hopefully it'll be a nice long-term listen for you guys as well.
Yes, it will be. So, what are you going to recommend for me to listen to?
Well, I'm going to recommend the artist Bon Iver, and or as you would say, Bon Iver.
Oh, Bon Iver. Why didn't you say?
Yeah. So the first album that I'm going to have you listen to, it's so difficult for me to decide between his first two albums, because on the one hand you have his first album, which is called Forever Ago, which came out only like a year or two before the one that I think I'm going to recommend for you. But I believe his second album, his self-titled one, the one that won all the Grammys. I think that one's better overall. Okay. Even though Forever Ago has Skinny Love, which is probably his most popular song. Okay, fair enough. So I'm going to recommend...
I definitely... The only song I know by him is Skinny Love.
Yeah.
So at least I know one song.
Yeah, true. So for the first part one of this two-parter, I'm going to recommend the self-titled album, Bon Iver, by Bon Iver. Okay. Or as you would say, I'm going to recommend Bon Iver by Bon Iver.
Yeah, Bon Iver.
Whatever. And just so you know, Bon Iver means something in French. I think it means like hello winter or something like that. If you do a little bit of research about when he wrote this album, the album artwork will make more sense and
I'll
whatnot. Anyway.
You know I do my research for these episodes.
You do. All
right, so I'm going to go with a band that I quite like a lot, Against Me. I'm going to go with their very first record. Against Me is Reinventing Axl Rose. I would title this album Reinventing Axl Rose, but the way they did their first two albums, they would like have their band name and then is blah blah blah, or like just for example, their second album is Against Me as the Eternal Cowboy.
Okay, so it's Against Me, Reinventing Axl Rose.
Yes. So we'll just call it Reinventing Axl Rose. Okay. And then 12 years later, they released an album called Transgender Dysphoria Blues. Okay. And I was debating whether I wanted to give you this one or the one that predated this, but there's a very big change that happens between that album and this. True. In case you can't tell from the title of the album.
And even though I haven't listened to a bunch of their stuff, I do know what happened.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, on the album Reinventing Axl Rose, the lead singer and guitar player was named Tom Gable. He was a man. On Transgender Dysphoria Blues, he reinvented himself as Laura Jane Grace. Yep. Went through a big change. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, since you said your second album that you're recommending already, I'll tell you what I'm going to recommend. But since Bon Iver only has 3 albums,
go for it. Yeah.
It's his newest album, which came out in 2016, I believe. But it's called 22, a Million. And it's quite a big change from the first album, the self-titled album. And, I'll tell you more about it in the weeks to come. So that is what we're going to be doing for the next couple episodes. Thank you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate it.
Anything else to say about your beer?
Oh yeah, for sure. I was just getting.
Mine's still really good. It hasn't really changed flavor-wise that much. It's just really good.
Mine's gotten a lot better since it got warmer. The flavors come on much quicker than they did before. So I would say that this beer has gotten better as it's gotten warmer, which a beer should.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
mine really didn't change that much. It just stayed good the whole way.
Yeah.
But let's give the old 1-2 sign off and clink our glasses and drink our beers.
Sounds good.
Once again, my name is Steven Johnston.
And my name is Jesse Titus.
And this is American Brews and Tunes. Thanks again for listening.
Here's a theme song, you know it's not a mean song. It's a good song, just as it should song. American Brews and Tunes. Shibbity-beeby-da.